This part of the demo, we're going to take a look at how we acquire data and clean the data and do some data wrangling. For part of this demo, you do need to download from the GitHub the zip file. There are CVS files under the data visualization analytics that we are going to need for this next part. So once you have downloaded the file, you can go and start in your SAC system, and here we are going to our left menu. As I've mentioned before, there are two methods of acquiring data and importing data into Analytics Cloud. We have data sets, and then we have the data modeler. For this example, we are going to use a data modeler. So I'm going to start by clicking on the data modeler, and I'm going to start by going with the CSV Excel file. Just to point out, there is options to create public dimensions that can be shared across all data models. Currency conversion, so if I utilize multiple currencies, I'm able to import and create a currency conversion. And if geomapping, points of interest, and coordinates are able to be kept here. That can be shared across all models. Now, to start, let's click on CSV and select a source file. You can see I have extracted the zip file, and in that zip file I have the CSV file sales order items all extended, which I'm going to utilize to build a data model. You can see I'm going to use the first row as headers and keep the auto delimiter as auto detect. I'm going to click on import, which is now going to start and create the data model by importing this data, and you'll see the message comes here and a pop-up of draft data telling you it's busy uploading the extended CSV file. Once it has finished, you're able to simply click on it and open the data modeler. And in here, we are able to see our different data structure that we have. It's going to notify me that I'm using a data sample as the file is very large. And you will see it only brings in the first 2000 rows to utilize where I can transform, edit, and configure, which will apply to the rest of the data. So here we can see I have now my sales order data that I have imported from the CVS file. I can also notice that not all the book titles are here, which I want to utilize in some of my reporting. So what I can do is I can merge it with another data source to get a more complete data. So I'm going to click on data upload from a file, select my source file again, and this time I'm going to import the book data, which is the data library I utilize for all the book information. And I'm going to import this here as well. And now it's going to load this file into my system. And now it's going to ask you to do a mapping of what data you want to combine and import into your system. So in this case, the ID is under books, is related to the book ID. So I'm going to move the book IDs to each other. The other ID I know it is complete, is author ID. So I'm going to map author ID. And finally, publisher and publisher. You can only do up to 3, but the more data points you connect, the more completed data you will receive. So you can see I have no duplicate data. I do have some omitted data from the books file, which is not utilized in this sales order, which is okay, but I have no duplicated and all my data is accepted. And I can quickly see a kind of a preview of how does this data look once I combine it. So I'll press combine and let the system import and combine the two data sources. You'll get a message that says it has been successfully combined. And now I can see here's my original title from the sales order, and here's from the book title. I have a more completed data table here. So in this case, I do no longer need this one. I'm going to click on it and say delete column. And the same can be said for extra data that I do not need. So I can scroll over here. I am not worried about stock. So I'm going to delete the stock column. This is the price list, and I already have the net amount it's sold for, which might be different from the listed price. So I'm also going to delete this because I just want to worry about the net amount. Genre ID, I do not need it this time. I do want to keep the ISBN number and average rating, and this ratings I do not need either. So I'm going to delete. And you can see here I'm able to simply clean up and utilize the data that I want and create my own data model. So now I have more completed data titles, and let's just rename this by double clicking and name the table a bit more appropriately. So now I have a nice data model. We can do quite a bit of additional things. I can look at the card value that breaks down all the columns into these cards for me. So I can see how complete and organized the data is. I can view here and see, okay, under description, there's some discrepancy, bad data. I have some good data and some missing data. And under cluster, I can see some missing data as well. And of course, if I click on this data cards, I can see here on the left, and let's click on that, my data quality is excellent on this one. So here we are able to see all our data in a data card. And finally, let's create a structure. So we can also create a hierarchy. So let's click on hierarchy, and we want to link the book ID, right? And we want to link that with our author, book title. We want to name that with the publisher and the name. All right, so now we have the name, the publisher, and title. So we can create this as properties under the book ID. And I'm going to click, just give it a name. Book hierarchy. And I'm going to click OK. Now it's going to link name, publisher, and title to the book ID. So then I'm going to click OK. And just like that, I created a simple hierarchy. If I require, I can also go in and I can view the overall table and see, okay, there's one issue remaining. Mapping complete. The following columns contain quality issues, description, which I'm not worried about as I'm not going to use description at this time. And I can also, if I want, I can enter my own calculated columns and enter formulas, which I can use the formula functions and scripting here and add conditions, operations, and I can add and format my own calculated columns as well. For now, I am not going to do that. And if I require transformation, splitting, you can see here I can duplicate the rows, and under transformations I can create a transformation, or I can convert the cases and all those items here as well. So with that said, I am done with adding and combining my data. And one thing left to do, I can see here is all my different views. Under net amount, I can see it is labeled as a generic dimension. I want to have this as a measure, so I can change the type of the columns or the data sets to be more relevant. So I can change this to a measure, so I know what the measure is now. And let's see, I want to go only to 2 decimal places as its currency. And let's see if there's anything else. So now I can see there is a linkage. So I can see link, and there's my book ID. That's all linked. Order dates, calendar date, that's correct. So we can clean up the data, utilize the data as we need. And finally, we can validate it. You will see there's no issues attached to importing my model. And finally, I'm going to click on Create Model. The data quality issues, we have rows dropped to proceed, max neural length exceeded in column 1, which is the description, which means the data is longer than I need. I'm not worried about it as I don't need that column, but I'm going to say create. I want to save this, so I am going to my public folder. I'm going under stories, and you see I have a folder here created, but simply clicking on new folder, you're able to create your own folder. And let's just name this something that is intuitive, that I can easily find and understand, with book data. So I know this is the sales order with the book data, and click OK. And now it's loading up my page. You can see some 518 rows have been rejected because of discrepancies and issues, but the rest of my data has imported successfully. If I want to view the description sheet, I can click download rejected. And now I can see also the import jobs that has been completed. If I'm doing this from a data source, I'm also able to schedule this to be regularly imported and appended to my existing data model. And finally, I can now view the different options. I can view my model structure, which will give me that star-shaped structure to see how all the data is linked together. So here is my account, my order date, and also all the relevant generic information related to my account. So with that, we have successfully created a data model. We have merged two data sources to give us a better completed data set. And with that, we will utilize this in later demos and demonstrations. Yes. So with that, let's continue with our presentation now.